Welcome to another segment of the Grassy Knoll on Dade City Micro Radio, AM 1610 WDCX. With us today is Adam Gorightly. The book about which we'll be speaking most is The Prankster and the Conspiracy. And also he has done a chapbook put out by Wing TV, and you know those folks out there, and it's Death Cults. That's interesting. I got to tell you, first of all, Adam, we're really pleased to have you here. It's been a while, and we finally hooked up.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And secondly, we had on a guest whose, I guess, great-uncle or uncle was a guy by the name of Michael Delisle Lyons. And the reason I bring this up is here's a character who was involved in the first radio station in the United States, the early days of radio. Then he goes off to become a Jesuit, goes to India, meets up with Mahatma Gandhi, breaks his vows, falls in love, has 2 kids. The United States calls him back because of his geological talents, and he facilitates the making of the 2 atom bombs, or 3 atom bombs. Unfortunately, the beryllium which he was mining for the triggering device killed him. So this is like one of these crazy Forrest Gump stories where you have a person who almost seems like a composite throughout history, and yet this was true. However, your character, who is not fictitious either, Kerry Thornley, might even top the Michael Lyons case. That was some kind of story.
Yeah.
So, well said. So why don't you give us some background on who this person is for all that Thornley was involved in? You know, I never ran into him. I mean, I'm not the most well-read person, but being around for 54 years, you know, I think I would have, you know, found something about him, but I didn't. How did you hit upon Thornley?
Well, for the general public, he was pretty obscure figure. For folks who got involved in the zine scene of the late 80s, Kerry became one of the major players during that period and became quite a famous figure in the underground, as he had been throughout the 60s and 70s with his involvement in the Discordian Society and the counterculture movement and such things. But a little background on Thornley. He was born in Los Angeles in 1938, and a friend who knew Thornley growing up once characterized him as a free-thinking nerd, which is the title of the first chapter in the book. Thornley was an odd kid with odd interests, and around when he was in high school, he made the acquaintance of a fellow named Greg Hill who shared similar odd interests with Thornley, including a fondness for quote-unquote crackpot cults, and one of their first outings together was a visit to one such cult, a flying saucer group in El Monte called Understanding. The lads also had a fondness for bowling alleys, and it was in one such bowling alley that they discovered or created, depending on your point of view, the spoof religion I previously mentioned, Discordianism. A little bit more on Discordianism later, but while in high school, Thornley had been a Marine Corps reservist, and after his graduation, around 58 or so, he spent a year as a journalism major at the University of Southern California, decided he wasn't cut out for college, at that point elected to fulfill his active 2-year duty and enlisted in the Marines. He was first stationed at El Toro Marine Base in Southern California, and it was there that he met and his path crossed with future alleged to be assassin of John Kennedy, none other than Lee Harvey Oswald. Thornley and Oswald spent a total of about 3 months together, and during that period, the two engaged in a lot of lengthy conversations dealing with politics, philosophy, and shared interest in Marxism. So that's one of the first curiosities about Kerry Thornley. After his time there at El Toro, which was about 3 months, he was shipped overseas to Atsugi, Japan, where Oswald had previously been stationed. And on his boat trip over there, began working on a novel about the disillusionment of a Marine serving overseas entitled Idle Warriors, and the protagonist of Idle Warriors was named Johnny Shelburne, who was a composite character based on Thornley, Oswald, and several other Marines. While Thornley was in Atsugi, Oswald was discharged and soon after defected to Russia. And this news of Oswald's defection caused an immediate shift in focus to Kerry's Idle Warriors book, and from that point forward, the lead character now became based entirely on Oswald. So in essence, Thornley was writing a book about Oswald 3 years before the Kennedy assassination.
It's not that unusual, especially during that era, and I have to confess to have kind of coattailed on that in the 70s.
Uh-huh.
But Thornley, he was not long in any one place, but he was in many places. He moved around quite a bit.
Yes.
Now, is there anything behind that necessarily? Anything nefarious or, perhaps CIA-ish?
Well, Jim Garrison suspected that Thornley was involved with intelligence operation and had been an asset of the CIA and was in fact one of the famous Oswald doubles running around New Orleans and Texas prior to the Kennedy assassination, and that these Oswalds, their mission was, these Oswald doubles, their mission was basically to paint this portrait of Oswald as this lone nut, commie, crazy sympathizer, and then use that later to create this past false history to set him up as a patsy in the Kennedy assassination. I should give you a little background on Thornley's, the period Thornley was in New Orleans. That was right after he was discharged from the Marines. He moved to New Orleans. Being a budding writer, he wanted to experience life and meet colorful characters. And it was in New Orleans he met a couple of shady characters named Slim Brooks and Gary Kirsten. And Kirsten's alias was brother-in-law. And these two guys were involved in the New Orleans underworld and claimed to have connections with the intelligence community. Thornley had many conversations with Kirsten and Brooks on topics, ranging from philosophy and politics to espionage and criminal activities. At one point, a theoretical conversation ensued about how to kill a president, and in particular, President Kennedy. Now, although Thornley detested Kennedy, he considered this conversation at the time nothing more than a morbid intellectual exercise. These conversations would later come back to haunt him. In '64, Johnson formed the Warren Commission to investigate the Kennedy assassination. Thornley testified before the commission on his association with Oswald. In '65, Thornley published his first book, titled, appropriately enough, Oswald, which was basically an endorsement of the Warren Commission report. Then later that year, Thornley was contacted by another Warren Report critic, David Lifton, who had taken offense with his book. Anyway, to make a long story short, Lifton met with Thornley during this period, came over to his house, and brought his 26 volumes of the Warren Commission report, threw him out on Thornley's floor, and over the course of the night convinced Thornley that Oswald was innocent and that there had been a conspiracy behind the assassination. Not to dodge your question about Kerry's comings and goings and mysterious doings during this period, but a little background is needed before probably jump into all the Garrison investigation. To bridge that period between when Kerry was in the Marines and his time in New Orleans and the time the Warren Commission investigation started, we've got to talk about the time in between there. During the 60s, Kerry got involved with the burgeoning counterculture, experimented with psychedelics, joined a free love group into mate swapping called Carista, He also helped organize the Griffith Park Human Beings and began formulating his own philosophy called Zenarchy. So you can see Thornley was involved in a lot of stuff. So while all of this was going on, we get into the Garrison investigation, and of course, all your listeners are probably quite familiar with Oliver Stone's JFK, which was a depiction of the whole Garrison investigation. Garrison's hypothesis was that a cabal of rogue intelligence agents had masterminded the Kennedy assassination, and that its base of operation had been the Guy Bannister Detective Agency in New Orleans. Anyway, before Garrison was able to bring his case to trial, both Bannister and David Ferry, another suspect in the case and a very strange character, they both mysteriously died. And so at that point, the key suspect in the case became Clay Shaw, director of the New Orleans Trade Mart and a CIA operative. At the same time that the Bannister operation was active, Oswald had been in New Orleans, involved in various communist organizations. And Garrison claimed that Oswald had been directed in these activities by Bannister and his outfit, and Garrison went on to theorize that Bannister had set up Oswald as a fall guy in the Kennedy assassination by, as we mentioned before, creating this illusion that Oswald was a radical communist. Anyway, at this point is where Thornley came in to the case. In early '68, he was indicted by Garrison as part of this New Orleans assassination conspiracy that had been directed, or so Garrison claimed, by elements of the CIA.
I want to remind everybody that you're listening to The Grassy Knoll on Dade City Micro Radio, AM 1610 WDCX. We have with us today Adam Gorightly. The long title of the book is The Prankster and the Conspiracy, the story of Kerry Thornley and how he met Oswald and inspired the counterculture. Adam, do you have other titles that we can at least mention to the audience and where people might be able to pick them up? And also, do you have any websites about yourself in particular, and maybe perhaps a couple of glimpses into the book?
Yes, and yes.
Very good. All right, I deserve that.
The Manson book is another mouthful. That was my first book. The Shadow over Santa Susana, Black Magic, Mind Control, and the Manson Family Mythos. And I have a website dedicated exclusively to that book. It's www.mansonmythos.com. Of course, my second book was a Thornley book, and the third one you mentioned is a shorter chapbook entitled Death Cults. That's available through Sisyphus Press and their website at wingtv.com, I guess it is.
It's .net.
I have another website in the works, and hopefully by the time this interview airs, it'll be up and running. It's about done, and that's adamgorightly.com.
Okay. All right, so we've got mansonmythos.com, we have wingtv.net, and we have adamgorightly.com, and you think by the end of the month that might be up and running?
Possibly in a few days. It's all complete. The webmaster was making some final corrections to it, so yeah, it's just a matter of days. So if it isn't up immediately, it will be, within a short period of time. Now,
obviously, you've delved into a kind of a unseemly underbelly of culture. Is there anything in that that has drawn you? I mean, obviously, it makes for fascinating topics.
T-Mobile has invested billions to light up America's largest 5G network, from big cities to small towns, including right here in yours. And great coverage is just the beginning. Right now, families and small businesses can save up to 20% versus AT&T and Verizon when they switch. Visit your local T-Mobile store today.
Plan savings with 3 lines of T-Mobile Essentials versus comparable available plans. Plan features and taxes and fees may vary.
anything else that kind of reached out for you?
That sucked me into this dark underbelly?
Yes, from the abyss, from which we'll never return. Yeah, what about
I mean, it's fascinating to delve into these things and try to figure out, or at least see what's going on behind the scenes, to read between the lines and, find out what's really going on in the world, what's what is underlying all these events, from the Kennedy assassination, all the way to 9/11. What is really at the core of these events? What drives them? I'm sure you're familiar with the great mother of all conspiracy theorists, Mae Brussel. Mm-hmm. She contended that events like the Kennedy assassination and the Manson family murders were basically organized, directed, coordinated behind the scenes to create a strategy of tension, is the term she used in this country, to erode civil liberties and ultimately to bring about a new world order.
Jeez. I know. Those people were laughed at so much, those who were onto it long ago. Mm-hmm. And, of course, as usual, they laugh first and then they cry later when they find out, in fact, these people were right. Could I digress for a second and just ask you a question about the Manson situation?
Sure.
All right. In your research, and maybe you didn't come upon it, but did you find any underlying reason, let's say, or the real reason perhaps, why, who was it? Was it Fromm that got involved with an assassination attempt on Ford?
That's correct, yeah.
Can you tell us anything about that? I mean, what the purpose was behind that? I mean, we don't believe in lone gunmen, and so I think there's some behind that as well. Did you come upon anything in your research for that book?
Well, that as far as the Squeaky Fromm assassination attempt of Gerald Ford, once again, it's some of the patterns and earmarks of the lone nut assassin. When after she was taken into custody, she appeared to be in a drug state, even though she was on no drugs at the time. She appeared to be perhaps under the form of some mind control or in a trance state, much like, for instance, Sirhan
sure,
was
right.
when he was picked up. Squeaky Fromm, prior to that assassination attempt on Ford, was being taken care of by a so-called sugar daddy who had connections to intelligence agencies and the military, and there was quite a few other things that raised my eyebrow when I started looking into that. But there's some odd connections with Charles Manson. Also, Sarah Jane Moore, another person who tried to assassinate Ford. According to one source I came across, knew Charles Manson as a child when they were both growing up in West Virginia. And so, the possibility is there that Manson and the likes of Squeaky Fromm and Sarah Jane Moore were being really conditioned very early in their life, perhaps mind-controlled way back then, part of an MK-Ultra operation.
Wasn't there another member of that clan, the Manson clan, family, whatever, who also took a shot at or tried to? I know that there was another female that also got jailed.
The other female was Sandra Good, and she was a running mate of Squeaky Fromm during this same period, and she was sending threatening letters to folks, not only to people in the government, but they also threatened Mae Brussel at one point, because Brussel was one of the first conspiracy researchers to look into the Manson family and their possible involvement and with military intelligence, and Mae Brussel contended that it was all part of a military mind control operation, the whole Manson family murders.
You know, I got to tell you, that event happened right around my birthday. I guess that was back in 70?
Yeah, August
29th?
8th and 9th,
okay.
1969.
Okay, all right, yeah. And I mean, I remember...
Happy birthday.
Yeah, yes. It's nice that I can always think back to that. But I can still see, when I was living in the New York area, you know, that whole thing coming across the Daily News, I mean, that was tabloid stuff to the max. And a very scary story, without a doubt, especially with the death of Polanski's wife and that also I guess that coffee heiress.
Right, Abigail Folger.
Yeah, right.
You know, it left a mark on a generation and basically brought the peace, love, and drugs vibe, you know, to a cataclysmic end. And, you know, getting back to what Mae Brussel talked about, the strategy of tension, whether it was designed to or not, it definitely, you know, coming right after Woodstock, put a taint on the '60s generation, and you know, it still resonates with us today in a bad way.
Now, was Woodstock 69 or 68?
69.
Yeah, all right. So
yeah, the Manson family murders were just a short time after Woodstock.
Actually, I think it's before it. I think I mean, not that we're split hairs about it, but what's interesting is you do have this, like you said, this kind of sex, drugs, and rock and roll epoch end. You do have a high water mark with Woodstock, because after that, nothing ever worked right again, like Altamont and Monterey.
Right, correct.
You know, so it's like that was the apex, and you have these two major events that happen so close to one another. I will say something. I'm going to throw it out to you, and let's go back into the book about Kerry, and that is, I have to laugh. You told me that two of these characters, Manson and one other member of the Klan, came out of West Virginia, right?
That's correct. Manson and Sarah Jane Moore, who wasn't
she wasn't
a member of the Manson family, but later tried to assassinate Gerald Ford.
Well, the reason I'm saying it, because this is how my mind works. I'm thinking, okay, Ford's president, unelected. His vice president is unelected, and it's Nelson Rockefeller. So just the fact that a Rockefeller might be near you is reason enough to want to bump off the president. And, of course, what state does J. Rockefeller come from? West Virginia.
Yeah. West Virginia, you know, has a very strange history. I mean, aside from what we're talking about here with the Mothman prophecies and strange sightings, and you know, that all might be part of some sort of mind control operation, or it's been going on for a long time. I don't know if you've got into some of John Kill's books and the strange things that have gone down in West Virginia over the years. But
well, one other thing, do you realize that West Virginia was kind of mentioned quite a bit, or was used as a landscape for a lot of the X-Files stories? And,
yeah, right.
And, you know, I think you'll agree that Chris Carter, and actually now one of the lone gunman characters, Haglund, has said that Carter was involved with CIA and FBI, sliding him perhaps storylines and such.
Yes, I've heard that. And
because those characters wove a lot of truth in those X-Files stories, and then put a stupid spin on it so people could dismiss it, I'm wondering if they were telling us more or less that the hideaway for the characters in the District of Criminals, if that isn't in West Virginia, like some kind of, you know, Iron Mountain situation.
Yeah, I think it's entirely possible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just think they winked a lot at us and told us. One day I'm going to go through those things again. That's for sure. Those X-Files
it seems seemed to have been a combination of leaking out a few things there, then confusing it all with disinformation. So, the majority of people would write it off. But if you knew what you were looking for with some of those episodes, I certainly saw, certain things that throughout my research, it was like a wink and a nudge from the creators of the X-Files that, they were leaking out there, in small doses at times, things that were really going on behind the scenes.
Right. I mean, that's a great storyline, and if you don't really want to get people too worked up about it because they might think it's truth, then what you can do is, give it a ludicrous turn and everybody forgets about it. But, you must run into this all the time. I know we do here. And that is, as soon as you start telling people about stuff that they don't hear on MSN, NBC, all the alphabets, they are so conditioned. The first thing that pops out of their mouth is, conspiracy theory.
Yeah,
and it's
they
like,
write you off as a Looney Tune. But, look how long it took for people to take seriously the notion that there was some type of conspiracy behind the Kennedy assassination.
Well, and if we can touch upon that, I'm going to ask you your own opinion. Despite your research and what you wrote in the book, your own opinion, do you want to give us a thumbnail of what you think took place in Dallas on November 22nd, 1963?
Well, to pin it on any one particular group is kind of hard to do, but, there was indeed a conspiracy that, to have been pulled off had to reach to the very highest levels of the government.
We have had on Jim Fetzer, who's written or edited 3 books about the assassination. He's been on, of late he's talked about the Yellowstone plane crash, which he doesn't think was just, organic, if you can say that. But he thinks that, or it's his belief that Lee Harvey Oswald had no idea at all. And I can't buy that. I think, well, let me ask you, I think he was somebody who obviously set some stuff up, but did he realize he was going to get the murder pinned on him? I don't think so.
I think Oswald was operating on a need-to-know basis. When you look at the period he was in New Orleans and he was involved in different communist organizations, started a fair play for Cuba committee. The research indicates that he was an operative for the Guy Bannister organization, which I previously mentioned, and he was given these marching orders to infiltrate these various communist organizations, basically to gather information. So I believe, in a lot of instances, he was directed to do these certain things, go out and buy a Mannlicher or Carcano rifle, and we'll place you, we'll get you a job here in Texas at the school book depository, and, I think Oswald was a member of the intelligence community, but I think it's very possible that he had no idea what was going down, until the very end of his life.
So
that he had been set up.
Would you agree with Fetzer that perhaps he didn't know that the president was going to get shot that day?
Sure, I would agree with that. I don't know for sure, but it seems plausible.
Okay. All right. And, of course, we want to get back to Kerry Thornley.
Yeah, this is a good point to jump back into that. Looking around, it was early '68 when Thornley was indicted by Garrison. And the principal witness against Kerry was a self-proclaimed witch named Barbara Reed, who was a voodoo worker and kind of a bohemian scene maker in the French Quarter there in New Orleans. And Reed claimed that she had seen Oswald and Thornley together prior to the Kennedy assassination, although Thornley denied this allegation, insisting that the last time he'd been in contact was Oswald when the two served in the Marines. Should talk about a book entitled The Second Oswald, came out in around 66 or so by a Dr. Richard Popkin. Presented the theory that there had been multiple Oswalds, as we talked about, running around New Orleans, Dallas prior to the Kennedy assassination, and portraying Oswald as this Looney Tune communist sympathizer with the intent of later setting him up as an assassination patsy. Now, when Oswald was apprehended, photos surfaced showing him at his Dallas apartment holding the rifle that allegedly killed Kennedy. And when Oswald was presented with this photo, he insisted it had been doctored and that he knew how the photographic alterations had been made. And he charged, it wasn't a picture of him, that the face had been superimposed. Anyway, this led Garrison to speculate that the photo had been fabricated by none other than the hero of our story, Kerry Thornley, and other accomplices. There's a researcher, John Armstrong, who's recently uncovered some documents in the last couple of years at the National Archives, which purportedly demonstrate that neighbors of Oswald had identified Thornley as a frequent visitor to Oswald's New Orleans apartment. The problem with a lot of these witnesses who identified Thornley by way of photographic identification was illustrated by a series of incidents where Garrison investigators went around showing prospective witnesses half a photograph in which Thornley appeared, informing them that the missing half was Marina Oswald. Anyway, it turned out that Garrison investigators had done some shady things and had doctored a lot of these photos, which makes it a kind of confusing and messy, but nonetheless, Garrison held to his theory that Thornley had been involved with the Kennedy assassination. We should jump forward a bit.
Well, before you do that, let me get another plug in there for you, if you don't mind. I'm trying to sell you some books. Our guest today at Grassy Knoll is Adam Gorightly. The book about which we're speaking is The Prankster and the Conspiracy, the story of Kerry Thornley and how he met Oswald and inspired the counterculture, and that's a mouthful. The websites to which you can go to find out more about the book and about Adam would be www.mansonmythos.com. Also, wingtv.net, and that's about the death cults. That's a chapbook that Adam's written. And also, by the time you hear this, it's true. His website might be going up, and that's adamgorightly.com. And one other thing, Adam, are those books also available if you get online with Amazon or any of those book peddlers?
Oh, sure, yeah. You can go straight to Amazon.com and get the Manson book and the Thornley book. The Death Cults is just available exclusively through Wing TV and or on my website, the AdamGoRightly.com, soon to be, and the Manson Mythos website. You can get signed copies directly from me.
Of which I have one, thank you very much.
Oh.
And one thing I want to know, I'm not really familiar with the publisher Paraview. Did you have any kind of a problem getting them interested with, or did you have problems with other publishers before hitting upon Paraview?
Not so much with the Thornley book. In fact, as I recall, Paraview was the first publisher I approached.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's great odds, by the way.
Yeah.
All right. Do they do other books in the vein of which you wrote?
Other books in the works?
Well, actually, I'll ask you that in a second. But I was wondering, is this a publisher who will carry, let's put it this way, left or right of mainstream literature?
Oh, exactly.
Okay.
Yes, they publish a lot of interesting stuff. Books on cryptozoology by the likes of Warren Coleman.
Holy mackerel. My
friend Greg Bishop has just published a book called Project Beta that looks into the whole Benowitz affair, famous UFO story. So, yeah, they're kind of off the beaten track. They do a lot of holistic things and new agey. Really good book publisher.
All right, excellent. And now, do you have something in the works?
I have quite a few things in the works. We were talking about James Shelby Downard.
Oh, yeah.
Working on a little piece on Downard and Michael Hoffman and their theories regarding, they call it sacred geometry and
toponymy,
the King Kill ritual, and some other strange research I've done that looks into Tuesday Weld's life and her being a high-ranking member of the Illuminati, if you can believe that.
Tuesday Weld?
Yeah.
You're breaking my heart here. I fell in love with her a million times when I was growing up, you know?
Well, she's kind of like a good Illuminati priestess from what my sources are telling me. An article on this is going to come out in the next Steam Shovel Press magazine.
Okay, sure.
Familiar with Steam Shovel?
Yes, we are. Steam Shovel Press, yep. Tuesday Weld, huh? Wow.
Yeah. I don't know how much I buy into it yet, but there's a group of people who really take this to heart. So I shouldn't...
Well, you know, when you really look back, though, especially with some of the strange endings of certain Hollywood stars, I'm thinking about Bob Crane, remember, from...
Hogan's Heroes.
Yeah. And, I mean, it would not be unusual for a lot of these people to be involved in some very strange stuff, especially being out in California with access to whatever they had access to. They may look like Troy, Donahue or Tab Hunter or Tuesday Weld, but you never know what's going on the inside, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I want to go back to something because I was thinking as we were talking, and you look at a guy like Kerry Thornley, and you don't really match him up as far as when you read about him in your book being a Marine. It just doesn't seem to fit his life's pattern. But if this was a military op, is there a possibility that Thornley's involvement in the Marine Corps might have identified him as someone that they might be able to use? What about that?
Well, exactly. Let me, before we talk about the possibility of him being sucked into some type of mind control operation while he was in the Marines, the first inkling that Kerry had been a victim of mind control started in the early 70s. He came across an article in the Yipster Times, which was a magazine put out by the Yippies, and there was a piece in there that later evolved into a book called Coup d'etat in America, an acronym for the CIA, which, and the thesis of this book was that the famous three tramps that were in Dealey Plaza the day of the Kennedy assassination,
right,
that those had been intelligence agents. And in the book, they showed three pictures of these tramps and also produced photo overlays of E. Howard Hunt and Frank Sturgis, later of Watergate fame, and also involved in the Bay of Pigs. Of course, Howard Hunt was a famous spook. They overlaid these photos and matched them up with the three tramps, and there was definitely some similarities there. And the authors suggested these three tramps had been part of the assassination. Now, when Thornley saw this material, it immediately triggered some memories of his mind of those two shadowy characters. You remember I talked about back in New Orleans, Slim Brooks and Gary Kirsten. And from that point forward, Kerry believed that he had been sucked into a mind control operation, unwittingly sucked into the Kennedy assassination, and that Gary Kirsten was in fact E. Howard Hunt, and that Hunt was Kerry's mind control handler.
Do you buy
and now that takes us to military mind control operations at the Tsugi Air Base in Japan, where both Thornley and Oswald had been stationed. According to E. Howard Hunt's biography, he had also been at Atsugi during that same period. And an article in Rolling Stone in the early 80s also contended that Atsugi was base of operations for the CIA and that they had conducted MK-Ultra LSD mind control experiments there.
I know that, there's an interesting photo floating around. I don't know if you've seen it. I would believe it's true that both Oswald and David Ferry were in some kind of like junior military thing, like Civil Air Patrol.
Oh, yeah. That's true. The Civil Air Patrol, if you're familiar with that,
sure.
It's a program for bringing youths into, as far as, giving them training on flying, how to pursue a career in the military. Mm-hmm. And Oswald was a member of David Ferry's Civil Air Patrol unit in New Orleans when Oswald was a youth, and there is, in fact, photos of the two of them together way back then. And this was probably in the
late 50s?
Early 50s, a good 10 years before the Kennedy assassination.
Did Thornley ever cross paths with Ferry?
That's an interesting question. Thornley claimed to, after he started having all these memories in the early 70s, that were triggered by this magazine article, he started remembering all these things that had happened to him, and also a brief meeting with none other than David Ferry. Of course, some people claim that by the time Kerry started making all these wild claims that he'd fried his brain on acid and that he had become a paranoid schizophrenic. Of course, by the time Kerry started making these claims, he now felt that Garrison had actually been on the right track and that Kerry had indeed been a member of this Kennedy assassination cabal in New Orleans, perhaps unwittingly so, but that's how he felt.
You got to consider that Thornley might have been fortunate to a certain extent. It might have been fortunate when you consider the body count in and around that assassination beyond just JFK. Oswald and Ruby and Dorothy Kilgallen, and it goes all different directions.
Oh, yeah, it keeps going and going and growing.
And I'm wondering if they feel that he appeared as destabilized as he might have been, or at least appeared to be, that they didn't have to rub him out because no one was going to believe him. Is that a possibility?
Oh, that's a possibility, and maybe that was the design to drive him crazy and send him over the deep end. As the years progressed, Kerry was able to survive, and even though he was a clinical paranoid schizophrenic, he lived a pretty happy life and productive life towards the end. But all throughout those years, he contended that he was being monitored by intelligence agencies, and folks I have talked to throughout his life claim, there was a lot of odd situations there. Strange people would show up asking questions about Kerry Thornley. So, I think the probability is that certain folks were keeping an eye on him over the years.
Well, if he was identified as a paranoid schizophrenic, first of all, the whole deal about being paranoid, that doesn't make you wrong.
Right.
And also,
as Charles Manson said, paranoia is a higher form of awareness.
Oh, boy. And the schizophrenia, I got to ask you, since multiple personality disorder is brought about by trauma, control trauma, if you will, did they split him into two, you think, or more?
Mr. Thornley?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Once again, I can't say for sure. The possibility is there. They might have split him in two, and when he was in New Orleans, because Garrison claimed that he was running around being an Oswald double, and Thornley, who was never a liar from what I've gathered, had no memories of these type of things going on. So yeah, it might have happened. Yeah.
Now, again, you just reminded me of something with. You document the fact that there were Oswald lookalikes that were behaving rather rudely in a lot of places, correct?
Yeah.
Now, we look at the 19 Arab hijackers of 9/11. None of them can be placed in any of those jets. But we do know that 19 of them were acting like jerks at airports, flying schools, bars. Can we look maybe at the same type of MO for this operation? The bit about making somebody very memorable and kind of radical, and then obviously you've got yourself somebody great to which you can affix any kind of high crime and treason.
Well, sure, you have a modus operandi that works, and you see the same pattern. You look back to all the major assassinations throughout the 60s. It seemed like they used the same models. I mean, all the way up to John Lennon's assassination. That whole MO seemed to work, so they stuck with it. So,
one quick question about that. It takes us kind of into the Death Cult's book. All right, because this kind of blew me away. Again, these people are all over the joint. You wrote about the fact that Chapman was in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And who was he harassing?
I'm not sure. He was.
I thought he was saying the bit about the bullets. This is for John Lennon.
Yeah. He was harassing Kenneth Anger.
Okay.
And are you familiar with who Kenneth Anger is?
I wasn't until I read that in this particular book.
Kenneth Anger had long associations with the Manson family. Was a filmmaker in Los Angeles, made some pretty obscure experimental films, and was a close associate of Bobby Beausoleil, one of the later Manson family murderers. Kenneth Anger was filming a movie in which Beausoleil starred in called Lucifer Rising. This was prior to the whole Manson family murders, and so and I thought that was just a interesting anecdote that later Chapman would show up with that bullet and telling Anger, "This is for John Lennon."
This is amazing stuff. It really is. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. I mean, this is just I don't like to use the cliche because it's so overused, but this is an onion. This thing never ends.
Everybody seems to be connected to everybody, when you look into the 60s counterculture and things that were going on. That's why some people suggest that Manson was sacrificed to cover up what was really going on in the music industry, because Manson had a lot of associations. Not to say that these people were involved with the murders, but they were closely associated with Manson, with Dennis Wilson of the Beach Boys.
Very
Manson
big.
Basically lived in his home for a period of time, and the Manson family was seen at parties with John Phillips of the Mamas and Papas, and knew people like Neil Young, and that's why a lot of folks feel that there was a cone of silence put over a lot of the Manson family trial, and to protect the Hollywood elite.
Well, I don't think I'd want to be a roommate of Charlie Manson's.
Well, what he did was, show up at Dennis Wilson's house one night with. Actually, the way it worked, Dennis Wilson showed up at his own house, and Manson had already moved in. And Wilson walks in, and there's a dozen nice-looking young ladies in various states of undress. So this was the way Manson was able to wiggle his way into the homes of the rich and famous.
Well, on the other hand, maybe. Also, another individual is involved, and if memory serves, and that is Doris Day's son. Wasn't it Terry Melcher or something like that? Was a producer for the Beach Boys?
Oh, yeah, and he at, once again, people claim that that was at the root of the Manson family murders. Terry Melcher owned the house that the Manson family slayings took place in. The Polanski Sharon Tate residence had formerly been the house of Terry Melcher. Some suggest that Manson felt that Melcher had welched on a deal to produce him, and that he had come back looking for Melcher in that house, or perhaps, and what really happened is that by committing those murders or directing those murders to be committed, that Manson was leaving Melcher a message.
Yeah, and I don't want to go off on too many digressions, but boy, you're shaking. You might do anyway, right?
Yeah.
You just shake a lot of cobwebs too, because wasn't Polanski involved with the movie Rosemary's Baby?
Yeah, that.
All right.
And of course, John Lennon.
Yep.
Lived in the Dakota, which was the house where the movie was filmed and Rosemary's Baby was born.
Oh, you know, again, that's so bizarre.
That connects to back to Kenneth Anger. We talked before he received the bullet from Chapman. Kenneth Anger in his movies. Kenneth Anger was good friends with Anton LaVey, and Anton LaVey appeared in some of Anger's movie, and LaVey also appeared as played the role of the devil, Satan, in Rosemary's Baby. And it seems like
well, that really wasn't a digression, was it? It was all part of the continuum, I guess.
Yeah.
Before we run out of time, again, I want to mention this is the Grassy Knoll on Dade City Micro Radio, AM 1610 WDCX. With us is Adam Gorightly, author of The Prankster and the Conspiracy. That's the short title. And also, we've been speaking about a chapbook that he put out entitled Death Cults. Also, find out more about him or pick up the books. As Adam said, you can find them on Amazon, at least the Prankster book. But you can go to www.mansonmythos.com. You can go to wingtv.net, where Death Cults is currently being presented. And also, he'll have a website up, probably as you hear this, called adamgorightly.com. And I want to touch upon something else if I can. Oliver Stone's JFK, I'm asking you your personal opinion on that. Do you think it was close? Do you think it took somebody down a side street or what?
It brought up a lot of good points. I think Garrison was portrayed as this knight in shining armor, and that wasn't necessarily the case. Garrison did some important research and turned up a lot of important evidence in the Kennedy assassination, but he was a filled human being like anyone else. So I would say, the portrayal of Garrison was inaccurate, but I think Stone felt, he had to have a hero in the story, so that's why he portrayed Garrison in that light. I think, the movie itself opened up a door for people, if they were aroused by that, and if a lot of this information was new, then they could go from there and seek out their own answers and, read different books on the Kennedy assassination. It also helped to, start another wave of interest in the Kennedy assassination. I know there was a lot of documents that were released after JFK. So all in all, I think, the movie had some positive effects. It wasn't perfect, but, it was a start.
I want to get this in before I go back to one or two other questions for you. I'm going to be in touch with you probably via email in the next 24 hours. There's some things I want to bounce off you and also show you. I think you'd be interested. So let me just say that for now, and I hope you'll be looking for that.
Yeah.
Another thing, when you just mentioned the dirty business that music is, it's interesting, too, because none other than Hunter S. Thompson, who has just met an untimely end, had that very famous quote about the music industry, which has been attributed to radio and other things. You know, that story about it's a long plastic hall where good men die like dogs and, you know, others run around like pimps and such. He goes, and then there's a downside. So, you know, so what did Thompson know about that as well? You know, who knows? But it was just...
what did... Thompson know or about the Gannon case and 9/11?
Yeah, and it's
he was talking right before his death in very blunt terms about 9/11.
You know, I wish I knew that for a fact. Did you come across anything in any periodicals or, you know, any interviews at all?
Oh, yeah, I did.
You did? Okay.
In fact, there's an audio interview, I think I still have it, where, once again, he said in very blunt terms that some bad things happened with 9/11, and our government was responsible to a certain extent, and that it was a just very bad deal.
There's supposedly an interview that he gave to the Star chain newspapers up in Canada, but I've not been able to find it. And the very mysterious Dr. Michael Elliott, if that's his name, who's been on the show quite often and has a website, 911review.org, told me that exists, and he didn't produce it. And I'm not saying that it isn't there. I just got very piqued by his mentioning it, and of course I got no delivery. So.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find this audio file for you. I found it on the web, and I saved the audio file if it's still not up on the web. It's a good 25-minute interview where, you know, Thompson speaks directly on 9/11 in very sobering tones.
Well, you know, there's an author out there by the name of Eric John Phelps. He's written Vatican Assassins, which chronicles and documents the Vatican and the Jesuitical provocateuring around the globe throughout history. And we're going to do a show later on, Adam, where we're going to run down all the assassinations and attempts of U.S. presidents. You know, we think we have a civilized political system or civilized people, but we must lead the world in assassinations and attempts. And it's always a lone gunman, or it's, you know, Harrison caught a cold. Yeah. No, I don't think so. I mean, there's intrigues from outside the country that I think came into play with this. And I don't know so much of that factored in with Kennedy, because I would have thought the Vatican was especially happy that he was in office. So I'm just wondering what didn't happen there. But we can even go back to the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand. It supposedly started World War I. And there's a whole story behind that, too, with the bit about the distraction, the shooter, and then the real shooter. Had you ever come across anything like that?
Never delved into that area.
No, but anyway, it's fascinating. I've deliberately not said much more about Kerry Thornley and how things came to an end for him and such. I think people should buy the book. I hate that when other guys do that on talk shows, you know, but I think they really should get into that. That is a marvelous work, and I'm thinking somewhat you had some fun writing that, if I can use that word.
Oh yeah, met a lot of cool people, and it was a venture. I think that's the reason I write, to give me an excuse to go out in the world and call people up and experience life.
Well, I'll tell you what, even your acknowledgments, you know, they read like, I mean, that's another great who's who. I mean, Harry, who's my partner, would be very pleased that you actually obtained a photo of Kerry from the legendary Reverend Ivan Stang.
Oh, yeah. Isn't that a fabulous photo? I mean, that's worth the price of the book itself. Of course, that's the edited version.
Yeah, I think so.
The publisher didn't want to print the uncensored version.
Well, I tell you, Harry, my partner, would be very happy, as I said, because he is one of the geni. He's a card-carrying reverend himself. We've been speaking with Adam Gorightly. The book is The Prankster and the Conspiracy. We want to thank you so much, Adam, for being with us, and look for some emails I'll be sending along, okay?
Okay.
Good night, and thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.